Well, good Wednesday afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Greg Majewski back with you here in the North Georgia Majestic Weather Studios with your weather update here on your January the 28th, 2026. Well, things turned out to be a pretty decent afternoon. A lot of sunshine out there for your hump day, and things still a bit on the cool side. And we're going to be a bit chilly again for tonight, but the big weather story continues to be what we're expecting for the weekend. Now, we knew the cold air was coming with the polar vortex dropping down, but now it looks like we will have to deal with some form of winter storm here across North Georgia. The question is, who's going to get it and how much, and what form will that precipitation take? We're going to get into all that here on this update. Now, before we get rolling, if you're new here to the channel and you live anywhere here across North Georgia, let me introduce myself. I'm meteorologist Greg Majewski, your trusted weather source, and I would love to be one of your weather options. So please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. That is very important because if you don't do that, YouTube will never let you know that I made a forecast update, so please do that. All right, let's go ahead and take a live look there at Brasstown Ball, looking very nice at 4,700 feet. A lot of blue skies out there, just a few clouds, but generally looking pretty good there in Brasstown Ball up there in North Georgia. Let's go down to the south toward Lake Lanier. Also looking at a lot of sunshine, definitely a bit of a breeze still outside. So with temperatures in the 40s, a little cool out there, but definitely better than it was earlier in the week. Now, current watches and warnings, they're all quiet, but I do suspect we're going to probably see the issuance of a winter storm watch, winter weather advisory, and maybe winter storm warnings going up here as we get closer to the weekend. So we'll have to pay close attention to this map to see what kind of impact we're going to see across our area. Local radar, it's quiet here for the moment. The good news here on the power outage front, we're down to about 1,100 customers here without power up there in Rabun and White counties, but they're almost got them all back up, almost recovered from the weekend. And here's the good news, folks. This upcoming storm, yeah, we're not talking about ice. We're talking about snow. That's a big difference. Now, that means we're not going to have to deal with power losses, but icy roads, well, that's a different game altogether there. But at least we don't have to worry about the power outages. I don't believe that's going to be an issue. So as we go and take a look at our regional satellite perspective here, again, a lot of clear skies here across North Georgia. This is all snow here back on the ground. You see all that stuff not moving. There's a lot of snow still on the ground. Very cold here across the country with the Arctic air, so very little snow melt going on with that. As we took a look at our local regional perspective here, we got temperatures here generally in the 40s, not bad. Still some 30s out there across North Georgia as well, but you see 45 there back over toward LaGrange and 48 there and over toward Covington. So generally in the 40s up across North Georgia for a lot of areas, looking pretty good here for this afternoon. All right, let's get into the real meat of this presentation, shall we? We're talking about the computer models. We're going to look at the intermediate model first. That's going to take us out through 84 hours. And then we're going to do some model comparisons here. I'm going to kind of show you some of the forecast challenges, I should say, for this update. All right, so now we're going to start out first by taking a look here at the NAM model. This is our intermediate model. It takes us about 84 hours out. So we're looking good for tomorrow. No issues tomorrow. In fact, today's weather and tomorrow's weather, pretty much carbon copy. The only difference is we may have a few more clouds around here for tomorrow. We'll call it partly sunny. Then going into Friday, we're also going to be dealing with partly sunny. We've got that little disturbance here. You see it kind of sliding in from the west there. All right, so this, as we're watching this very closely, you're going to notice this piece energy dropping down here. This is the piece, a little cold off piece pinched off here. This is a polar vortex piece that's jumping down here and dropping down. So we got that going on. We got low pressure going on out here, and we're going to have what we call an inverted trough kind of cooking these two systems together. And depending on where that polar vortex is really going to dictate where the snow is going to fall. Instead of doing kind of a north-south thing like we traditionally do with the snow line, it's going to be kind of more of a east-west setup here across the area to see who's going to get the snow and who isn't. So I'm going to take this all the way out to the end of its run here. As you can kind of see, it's definitely favoring East Georgia. A lot of you folks here in West Georgia not seeing a whole lot in here. Oops, sorry, let me get this moved over here. There we go. Back over this way. So you can see that lining up right there. So again, that's what the latest intermediate model is showing. Let's compare it to some of the other global models to see exactly where we're lining this up. So we're going to first take a look at the European model. Okay, they're not really that different, really. Maybe the NAM's a little more robust with it, but they're generally sitting in the same general locations, East Georgia, as far as where that core, that cold air is rubbing in. Now, for you snow lovers out there, let's look at the Canadian. The Canadian's got the polar vortex a little bit further to the west. As a result, a lot more Georgia's covered with some snow air, including the western zone. So it's definitely a little more gung-ho there with the snow. The American GFS model appears to be a little bit of an outlier because it is mostly to the north and over to the east there with the snows. Not a whole lot getting into the state on the American GFS model, but the Canadian, the European, and the NAM, those three say, yeah, it looks like we're going to get snow in the area. Now, as far as the snow totals are concerned, let's look at the NAM. This goes out till 7 o'clock. Let me switch over to the state view here. There we go. As you can see, the blue areas, that's basically getting above 2 inches of snow. The gray, that's less than 2 inches. But you can see more of the area covered there. Now, the European model, which has picked up in activity there, a pretty good swath here coming up here through. You see the 1.5 inches there in Lawrenceville, 4 inches over there in near Jefferson, 4 inches up there near Toccoa, over to Lake Hartwell. Look at these heavy snows back in toward the Carolinas, 7 inches plus. But you can see the western zone's not seeing that much. And but if you like the snow, again, I'll show you the snow here one. There it is right there. The Canadian showing more of Georgia, even getting into metro Atlanta, showing a couple inches, 2 to 3 inches of snow into that area as well. Even getting all the way down into southeast Georgia. How about 1.5 inches of snow getting down towards Savannah, showing up on the Canadian? Wow. But the GFS model, it's showing a lot of it, just most of it up in the Carolinas, and not showing a whole lot in our area. So I'm going to look at the 3 models there. I'm going to take the GFS and throw it as an outlier because it's not really lining up with what the other 3 are showing me. All right. So this is what we got right now. The fact the Weather Service isn't really touching this just yet, I couldn't help but notice this on their forecast maps. Watch this as we go through the week here. As we go through the week, not looking too bad. Going into Thursday, we're looking good for tomorrow. Again, maybe just a few clouds around, partly sunny. And then we'll say partly sunny going into Friday as well because we got this little disturbance that's riding in from the west. Kind of see that riding it through here. Got some little snow up here across Tennessee and North Georgia. A little bit of showers down on the Gulf Coast. And look what happens if you go into your Saturday morning. Here's Friday night. Here's Saturday. Saturday, it shows that inverted trough, shows the high pressure, but it's not painting any snow in here at all, okay? So the Weather Service wants to take another look at this to see how it's going to go, but I think we're pretty set. I always follow the European. I think I'm pretty confident in that area there. So going into your Sunday, just plain old cold and sunny. Now, we'll say this. If we do get some decent snows across North Georgia, those lows Sunday and Monday could be substantially lower if we got a snowpack on the ground with this kind of Arctic high pressure coming in here. Now, Monday, we're looking pretty cold, but Tuesday, we start to modify back up, and then Wednesday, we do bring a slight chance of showers back in our forecast. All right, so here we go. Let's take a look at our forecast here. Again, we're looking at Thursday, 44, 25, a few more clouds. We'll call it partly sunny, mostly sunny, depending on where you're at. Again, very similar to what we saw today, just a few more clouds. All right, looking at your overnight lows, generally teens and low 20s, similar to what we had this morning. Again, mostly clear skies for the overnight hours, and then we'll bring in some clouds throughout the day, especially later in the afternoon. The winds will settle down a little bit as well, but staying generally in the 40s, so very similar high temperature-wise to what we had here for today. Regionally looking like this, 38 up in Nashville. How about 51 in Columbus, 53 in Jackson? And they want to warm up, I guess that's the warmest spot, 58 down in Jacksonville here for your Thursday. All right, next 7 days, here we go. All right, we got the slight chance of snow in the forecast late in the day on Friday, going 43, 27. Right now for Gainesville, because it's on the eastern side of this, I'm going to go 60% of chance of snow there, 29, 25. A good chance of snow. How much remains to be seen, but I'm going with a snowy forecast there for the eastern parts of Georgia. Basically, take Interstate, I-4, Georgia 400. If you're to the east of that area, I think you got the better chance of seeing the snow. If you're to the western parts, not so much. Dalton, Rome, I don't think you're going to see much on this, but we're cold into Sunday and Monday, and we do warm up a little bit with that next chance of rain going in toward Wednesday. So, again, very topsy-turvy forecast here for you folks. We're going to be watching it very closely. Of course, we'll have another update for you for tomorrow, and we do plan on doing live coverage here of the event. We'll be simulcasting here on YouTube as well as on our Facebook page here for the live event. And, oh, by the way, we do have our membership services are now up and operational. So if you'd like to become a member and get some exclusive content there, especially for some of the weather briefings, you can do that as well. All right, that's y'all's update for now. Y'all take it easy. And again, remember, hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future updates. Little thing I learned from my last YouTube page. If you don't get that notification bell going, you're in a lot of trouble. All right. Anyway, you guys take it easy. We'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye-bye.